In the boundless stretch of the cosmos, where stars gleamed like scattered diamonds on an infinite velvet backdrop, there existed a realm unlike any other. This planet, known as Zerathia, was home to a race of beings renowned across the galaxy for their elegance and ethereal beauty. Among them was Princess Elra, the radiant heart of her people, whose mere presence could illuminate even the darkest reaches of space. Elra's appearance was nothing less than otherworldly. Her skin glowed with a pearlescent sheen, shifting gracefully between hues of silver and lilac. Her eyes sparkled with the complexity of dual galaxies, and her flowing hair, like cascades of liquid amethyst, caught and scattered light in dazzling, hypnotic patterns. But beneath her extraordinary looks was a sense of majesty and wisdom, cultivated over generations of royal heritage and diplomatic training. As the sole successor to the Zerathian crown, Elra bore the immense responsibility of her people's future on her graceful shoulders. Her daily life was a whirlwind of council assemblies, alliance discussions, and ceremonial obligations, leaving little room for personal freedom. The burden of rule had taught her to keep an emotional distance from others, forming a silent barrier between herself and those she led. Though adored and idolized, Elra remained a mystery, always courteous, yet unreachable. This distance wasn't born of pride or contempt, but stemmed from a deep understanding of her role and the risks of forming personal ties. Every word she uttered, every gesture she made could carry political implications or be seen as a strategic maneuver. For this reason, she mastered the art of concealment, presenting only the composed and regal image demanded of a monarch. Even in the presence of trusted advisors or family, Elra maintained this composed detachment, never letting anyone see the vulnerable soul hidden beneath her regal demeanor. As a diplomat, this emotional discipline was essential. With Zerathia entangled in increasingly intricate interstellar affairs, the princess was often at the heart of delicate and high-stakes negotiations. Each meeting demanded absolute control over her expressions, lest she betray her intentions or unintentionally sway the outcome. This constant awareness had become instinctual, transforming her natural kindness into a carefully rationed gift, given only when absolutely necessary. Yet, despite her polished exterior, Elra harbored a quiet longing for genuine companionship. She would often stand by the crystal-paneled windows of her palace, watching ships from distant worlds arrive and depart, each a vessel of untold stories and unfamiliar lives. The vast universe beyond her homeworld whispered to her with the promise of adventure and wonder, but her obligations anchored her firmly in place. And so, she continued to uphold her role, shielding her dignity and her heart from the relentless demands of leadership. Meanwhile, in a distant corner of the galaxy, orbiting a modest yellow sun, Earth spun steadily on its axis, largely unaware of the cosmic events unfolding beyond its skies. Here lived Marcus Chen, a man whose life stood in stark contrast to that of the alien princess. A brilliant engineer employed at one of Earth's leading space research institutions, Marcus spent his days amid the hum of engines and the glow of computer monitors, contributing to humanity's early steps into the cosmic frontier. Marcus's path was far from conventional. The son of immigrant parents who had given up everything for their children's future, he grew up in a cramped apartment above his father's modest repair shop. From a young age, Marcus showed an extraordinary knack for understanding mechanics, disassembling and reassembling everything from old radios to household gadgets. His hands, though marked with the roughness of years of labor, moved with precision and care when handling delicate circuits and intricate components. The walls of his humble home reflected his passion. Shelves overflowing with technical manuals sat beside hand-drawn blueprints of conceptual spacecraft. Unlike his colleagues who followed academic paths, Marcus carved his way forward through hands-on experience and relentless perseverance. His breakthrough came with the creation of a groundbreaking propulsion mechanism crafted from repurposed materials, a feat that caught the attention of top-tier researchers. Despite his professional accolades, Marcus remained strikingly grounded. His laid-back demeanor and sharp sense of humor made him well-liked, though he often felt out of place at formal gatherings, preferring the quiet focus of his workshop over glitzy conferences. What truly distinguished Marcus, however, was his unrelenting curiosity about life beyond Earth. While others in his field concentrated on engineering or theoretical physics, Marcus immersed himself in xenobiology texts and cultural studies of known alien races. He firmly believed that understanding diverse intelligences would be crucial to humanity's future among the stars. In his spare time, he even began learning alien languages, convinced that meaningful interspecies dialogue could pave the way to shared progress. His ever slightly grease-stained uniform told the story of countless late nights spent blending engineering with biology, dreaming of a day when humans might genuinely communicate with extraterrestrial civilizations. But for Marcus, this passion wasn't merely academic, it was deeply personal. He saw interstellar diplomacy as a possible answer to many of Earth's greatest struggles. At his research facility, where work never ceased and collaboration thrived around the clock, Marcus quietly pursued his vision, one invention and one late-night session at a time. From asteroid extraction systems to prototype communication technologies, it was within this organized storm of human creativity that destiny quietly began to unfold, setting the stage for an encounter that would upend everything Marcus thought he understood about himself and the cosmos. The intersection of these two vastly different existences began with what should have been a standard diplomatic visit. The leaders of Zarathia had agreed to dispatch an envoy to Earth to explore possible trade relations concerning rare elements exclusive to their world. Princess Elra, now increasingly involved in interstellar affairs, was adamant about leading the mission personally. Her advisors voiced strong objections, citing potential security risks and the traditional protocol of delegating such tasks to lower-ranking emissaries. But something about Earth's blue and green sphere, as captured in the intricate scans from earlier reconnaissance flights, had captured her imagination. Earth's space agency, eager to forge stronger bonds with more advanced civilizations, prepared an elaborate reception aboard its orbital research outpost, the same station where Marcus happened to be employed. The occasion coincided with the finalization of a groundbreaking communication array, a system Marcus had spent months tirelessly developing. As technicians hustled to complete last-minute calibrations, Marcus found himself responsible for overseeing the final tuning of the array, ensuring it operated flawlessly during the monumental event. On the day of the Zarathian arrival, a buzz of anticipation filled the station's sleek hallways. Security measures were tripled, and staff members were reminded repeatedly to uphold strict professional conduct. Marcus, however, was unusually preoccupied. The notion of meeting extraterrestrial life, not through reports or archival footage, but face-to-face, stirred something deep within him. He had spent countless nights immersed in data about alien physiology and culture, but this would be his first direct encounter. As he ran diagnostic tests on the communications system, his thoughts wandered. What were they like? How did they think? What could he learn from them? Then, in a shimmer of energy, the Zarathian equivalent of a docking sequence, Princess Elra appeared on the observation platform. Through the reinforced glass of the command chamber, Marcus caught his first glimpse of the alien delegation. His breath caught as his eyes locked onto the figure at the delegation's center, a vision of celestial elegance that shattered every preconception he had held. She moved with an elegance that felt unearthly, her luminous aura casting a faint radiance across the sterile metallic interior of the station. Protocol required all personnel to keep a respectful distance until formal introductions began. Marcus observed from behind his console as Elra calmly surveyed the room, her gaze drifting across the assembly with practiced precision. Her expression was unreadable, revealing nothing of her internal state as her ambassador exchanged ceremonial greetings with Earth's officials. And yet, there was something in her manner, the slight tilt of her head as she studied the human faces, the extended pause of her gaze on certain individuals, that hinted at a shared curiosity. Behind his wall of screens and equipment, Marcus found it increasingly difficult to concentrate. His hands hovered above the interface, his mind torn between the reality unfolding before him and the countless hypotheses he had long entertained about first contact. It wasn't the princess's striking appearance that held his attention. Rather, it was the subtle contrast between authority and vulnerability in her bearing, the quiet way she absorbed every nuance of this unprecedented gathering while never once slipping out of her poised, stately demeanor. As the opening ceremony proceeded, Marcus noticed how Elra kept a measured distance, not just from the humans, but from her own retinue as well. That physical separation seemed to reflect the emotional divide often described in diplomatic briefings about Zarathian customs, particularly their guarded approach to interspecies interactions. And yet, Marcus couldn't help but feel that behind those carefully constructed boundaries was someone deeply moved by the magnitude of this meeting, just as he was. The communications array, which Marcus had helped bring to life, hummed softly in the background as it began translating Earth's spoken words into the intricate harmonic frequencies preferred by the Zarathians. His training told him to monitor the system, analyze signal fidelity, verify linguistic coherence, but his attention kept drifting back to the princess. Occasionally, she would glance in the direction of the technical stations, her iridescent eyes scanning the rows of engineers as though searching for something or someone. Time stretched and collapsed in irregular pulses as the ceremony wore on, and Marcus felt caught between his professional duty and a powerful yearning to connect across the void between their worlds. The princess Wactus detachment, while logical given her status, no longer felt like a wall. It felt like an invitation, a challenge to his long-standing belief that real understanding, even between species, was not only possible, but inevitable. Despite the widening cultural gap, Marcus held firm to his belief that authentic connection could exist, even across the greatest divides. As the ceremonial proceedings wore on, he became increasingly aware of how meticulously Princess Elra controlled every motion, every subtle glance, every gesture, and how fiercely he longed to uncover what was concealed beneath that composed exterior. The officialities dragged on, each minute brimming with unspoken potential. Marcus, whose hands were typically steady when handling delicate technology, noticed a faint tremor as he adjusted the communication system. But it wasn't hardware failures that occupied his thoughts. It was the fragile social dynamics at play. Elra's reserved demeanor, while expected, only reinforced his conviction that something deeper might be possible, a bond that could defy the boundaries of species and protocol. Each diplomatic exchange seemed more like a choreographed performance than a sincere attempt at unity, and Marcus's growing frustration pushed him to the edge. Then, during a formal tour of the observation deck, the princess happened to walk near his station, and something within him snapped. Whether it was the pressure of the moment, the heady presence of another world so close, or the simple, irrepressible desire to break through her poised exterior, he acted without thinking. "Hello, cutie," he blurted out. The phrase pierced the stiff atmosphere like a meteor breaking into orbit. Translated instantaneously by the very array Marcus had helped engineer, the greeting emerged in a cascade of musical tones that reverberated through the chamber. Time seemed to stop. All eyes turned toward him, including those of his horrified colleagues. Elra halted mid-step, her flawless composure fracturing like glass. To say her reaction was surprising would be a gross understatement. The princess's shimmering skin blossomed with unfamiliar hues, deep violets and electric blues swirling across her cheeks and collarbone. Her radiant eyes widened, pupils tightening in shock before dilating rapidly. In that instant, she appeared less like a dignified sovereign and more like a startled soul caught in a moment she hadn't prepared for. Her refined mask slipped away, replaced by an honest display of emotion that transcended language and biology. The transformation was immediate and striking. No longer the distant diplomat, she stood before them visibly shaken, grappling with unfamiliar feelings. Her hands flitted uncertainly, and her movements, typically so elegant, became tentative and almost bashful. She took a step back, then forward again, undecided, vulnerable. Her delegation stood frozen, equally stunned by the display. But what followed was even more astonishing. Elra's bioluminescent patterns began to pulse in time with her rapid breathing, casting a mesmerizing light across the chamber. Her speech dissolved into soft melodic tones, the Zarathian equivalent of nervous laughter. Attempting a reply, her translator sputtered a series of disjointed phrases as if her mind was overwhelmed by competing responses. Marcus stood motionless, transfixed. Her glow deepened into a rich amethyst, a color his hastily consulted cultural notes associated with deep embarrassment mingled with unexpected delight. The princess's regal distance vanished, What remained was a disarmingly sincere vulnerability, far more humanizing than any formal interaction could offer. Even more remarkable, her emotional reaction seemed contagious. Other Zarathians began to show subtle signs of suppressed amusement, their own light patterns flickering with repressed chuckles. The strictly controlled diplomatic ambiance melted into something far more spontaneous and real. Marcus now stood at the center of a scene that would no doubt be dissected in diplomatic forums for years. But the aftermath wasn't filled with shame. In the hours that followed, as official matters resumed in a far more relaxed tone, Marcus noticed slight shifts in Elra's demeanor. She no longer kept her usual distance. Instead, she lingered near his station more often than necessary. And each time they crossed paths, her skin danced with changing hues, reflecting a kaleidoscope of emotions no human language could fully decode. Others noticed too. During a pause in the proceedings, Dr. Elena Martinez, the lead xenopsychologist, quietly approached Marcus. "You've done something extraordinary," she murmured, her gaze trailing the princess. "From what I can tell, she's experiencing something similar to human infatuation, but intensified by their biological makeup. Those shifting colors, they're basically broadcasting her emotions to everyone in the room." Indeed, Elra's typical composure appeared compromised. During further discussions, she would occasionally lose her train of thought if Marcus entered her field of vision. Her melodious voice faltered, betraying a mind no longer solely focused on protocol. The Zarathian delegation, to their credit, responded with remarkable tact, attributing the incidents to the strain of interstellar travel. But for Marcus, it was clear something profound had been set in motion. Although the official explanation attributed the princess's unusual conduct to the stress of high-stakes negotiations, Marcus could read the truth in the subtle, knowing glances exchanged among Elra's aides. The incident's impact went far beyond personal interactions. As word of the event spread throughout the station, the general atmosphere underwent a distinct transformation. Human personnel, once intimidated by the alien delegation's enigmatic presence, began approaching them with greater confidence, encouraged by the princess's unexpectedly relatable demeanor. What had started as stiff, protocol-bound conversations gradually evolved into more relaxed dialogues. Both species began to openly exchange cultural experiences and personal stories. Marcus, ironically propelled into a central role by his earlier breach of protocol, became an informal bridge between the two worlds. Elra's clear interest in him seemed to give others permission to voice their curiosity as well. Questions flowed more naturally about Zarathian customs, daily routines, and societal norms. The alien guests, in turn, grew increasingly open about aspects of their civilization that had previously been too sensitive to discuss during formal talks. However, this shift was not without its complications. Some of the Zarathian representatives voiced concern over their leader's uncharacteristic behavior, occasionally escorting her away for private consultations. These rapid-fire exchanges, delivered in harmonic frequencies that exceeded the capabilities of translation systems, suggested deeper ramifications that Marcus could only guess at. Still, each time she returned from these hushed discussions, Elra tried to reassert formal decorum, only to falter whenever she made eye contact with Marcus. The effects rippled out beyond mere conversation. Joint technical teams began to collaborate more fluidly, with the Zarathians now offering insights into their tech that had previously been closely guarded. Scientific discussions became more collaborative, shifting from cautious data sharing to true joint problem solving. Even the station's culinary staff reported success adapting Earth dishes to suit Zarathian palates, as both sides showed a newfound eagerness to experiment and exchange preferences. Yet, beneath all the progress, tensions began to simmer. Conservatives on both sides grew uneasy with the evolving tone of the mission. Traditional diplomatic structures struggled to rein in the spontaneous cross-cultural exchanges. Security protocols were stretched thin as boundaries blurred. What had once been a finely balanced dance of formality and power was now on the verge of being rewritten, sparked by one impulsive human remark. As the days wore on, Marcus found himself drawn deeper into the unfolding situation. Elra's candid response to him had opened a door neither species had dared approach before. It created space for a level of mutual understanding that diplomacy alone had never achieved. But with that opening came unforeseen complications, challenges rooted in the intersection of personal emotions and official responsibilities. The consequences of that single spontaneous greeting defied every textbook on diplomacy. Formal meetings continued, but their nature had shifted. Sterile briefing rooms were transformed into spaces for heartfelt exchange. Elra, still visibly affected by Marcus's presence, introduced subtle changes to the process itself. She advocated for breaks in formal talks, labeling them cultural exchange intervals, allowing participants from both civilizations to interact in more relaxed settings. These sessions unveiled surprising insights into Zorathian life. During one such gathering, Elra demonstrated their species' method of artistic communication, bioluminescent patterning. Her natural luminescent displays, which reacted involuntarily to Marcus's presence, grew more elaborate and emotionally charged. Members of her delegation joined her, producing a symphony of light that conveyed depth of feeling and thought beyond the limitations of spoken language. In return, the human team shared music, painting, and other artistic expressions. Unexpected collaborations blossomed, blending Earth's creative arts with the Zorathians' biological aesthetics. Likewise, engineering discussions reached new heights. Scientists discovered that Zorathian technologies operated on principles that intriguingly harmonized with human innovations. Their intuitive connection unfolded in unexpected ways. When Marcus described Earth's problem-solving strategies using tangible models and hands-on demonstrations, the Zorathian specialists responded with surprising enthusiasm. Their usual restraint melted away under the spirit of collaboration. Princess Elira herself showed a particular fascination with terrestrial innovations, often lingering by Marcus's station to observe his techniques up close. However, these advancements came with challenges that tested both civilizations' adaptability. Conservative voices on either side expressed growing discomfort with the increasingly blurred boundaries between professional protocol and personal rapport. Some senior Zorathian officials even proposed alternative leaders for the delegation, but Princess Elira stood her ground. Her once disciplined bioluminescent signals now frequently revealed her emotional state, subtly undermining established notions of royal decorum. The human delegation wrestled with similar concerns. While many embraced the evolving dynamics, others worried about the precedent it might set. Meeting transcripts reflected unprecedented cooperation, but also recorded moments where emotional influences clearly impacted decision-making. Marcus, caught between his technical duties and his unforeseen symbolic role, often worked late to maintain professional integrity, even as social barriers steadily dissolved. Most intriguing was the broader cultural shift Elira's reaction ignited. Younger Zorathians began emulating her openness, while human participants adopted facets of their alien counterparts' nonverbal communication. The station's hallways echoed with hybrid exchanges, part spoken word, part radiant gestures, forming a new, shared language that transcended species. This organic evolution challenged long-standing theories on interspecies communication, hinting that emotional honesty might outperform traditional diplomacy. Yet beneath these visible transformations, deeper questions arose. The princess's inability to maintain her usual diplomatic distance hinted at underlying complexities within Zorathian society, and perhaps their monarchy itself. Her recurring flushes and spontaneous light patterns suggested vulnerabilities neither civilization had fully recognized. Human participants, too, began questioning their assumptions about alien cognition and whether emotional responses were truly universal. As the mission progressed, Marcus and Elira became unwitting pioneers in a delicate social experiment, testing the limits of mutual understanding through a fusion of technical collaboration and raw emotional transparency. Their interactions evolved in unforeseen ways, each encounter layering upon the last to create a connection that defied categorization. The original objective, negotiations around mineral trade, faded into the background as both sides grappled with the significance of the unexpected bond forming between the two. Their evolving relationship began to manifest more visibly. During technical briefings, Marcus's practical demonstrations were often mirrored by Elira's bioluminescent displays, which instinctively synchronized with his movements. The resulting visual symphony captivated both human and Zorathian observers, leading to spontaneous research on how emotional responses could enhance cross-cultural communication. Their connection became a careful balance of necessity and attraction. In official settings, Elira retained her diplomatic poise, yet her gaze would inevitably drift to Marcus. Her shimmering skin cycled through hues that reflected a complex blend of nervousness and anticipation. During breaks, she found increasing excuses to visit his workstation, initially under the guise of technological curiosity, but eventually with questions about human culture and emotions. Marcus, known for his easygoing demeanor, found himself adapting to the nuanced courtship of another species. He gradually learned to interpret Elira's light patterns and tonal shifts, developing an intuitive sense of her moods that surpassed the limits of translation technology. Their exchanges became a multi-layered conversation, spoken words, glowing signals, and shared silences forming a vocabulary all their own. To accommodate her communication style, Marcus adjusted his own. He slowed his speech, accentuated certain rhythms, and began crafting harmonics that seemed to harmonize with her language. Yet, their distinct backgrounds continued to pose challenges. Elira's royal obligations demanded strict adherence to protocol, often pulling her back just when she reached out. At times, she would begin a personal exchange only to withdraw abruptly, her lights flickering in confusion as duty clashed with desire. Marcus, used to more direct human interactions, found himself delicately balancing respect for her role with his growing affection. Their shared engineering projects became the safest avenue for closeness. Collaborating on upgrades to the communication system allowed them to concentrate on mutual goals while gradually cultivating trust. Elira displayed a remarkable aptitude for engineering. Though her methods diverged from human practices, she seemed to intuit solutions through intricate patterns of light and sound. While Marcus relied on tactile experimentation and logic, her instinctive approach complemented his. Together, they achieved breakthroughs neither could have discovered alone, forging a professional synergy that mirrored their deepening emotional bond. Still, resistance persisted. Traditionalist factions on both sides grew louder in their disapproval, questioning the propriety of the developing relationship. Zorathian elders in particular expressed grave concern over the princess's increasingly emotional displays, while human officials expressed concern about their influence on formal negotiations. Security measures around their interactions were intensified, mandating chaperones and meticulous documentation of every meeting. Despite these constraints, or perhaps because of them, their bond strengthened through furtive glances and subtly encoded messages exchanged during technical discussions. The situation escalated when Elra started integrating aspects of human expression into her official responsibilities. During ceremonial events, she would involuntarily mimic gestures and facial expressions she had noticed in Marcus, causing unease among her advisors. Her diplomatic addresses began to include allusions to human ideals like friendship and mutual respect, diverging from the traditionally rigid Zorathian discourse. Although these shifts unsettled some, they resonated with the younger delegates from both sides, who started to imitate this more intimate style of interspecies engagement. Amidst all this, Marcus grappled with the profoundness of their connection. What began as a spontaneous moment of informal human behavior had blossomed into something far more meaningful, a bridge linking two species and challenging long-standing conventions and protocols. Each encounter with Elra compelled him to reevaluate his perceptions of alien psychology, emotional expression, and the essence of connection. He unearthed aspects of his own personality he hadn't previously recognized, spurred on by the princess's unyielding sincerity, even when that sincerity revealed itself through uncontrollable blushing and involuntary harmonic responses. Their relationship evolved into a complex weave of professional partnership, cultural interchange, and personal attraction, each element reinforcing the others. The princess's initial reaction had unlocked possibilities neither species was aware existed, creating opportunities beyond their roles as diplomat and engineer. Navigating this uncharted terrain, they found themselves not merely representing their peoples, but pioneering a new paradigm of interspecies understanding, one neither could have foreseen when their paths first crossed. As the momentum behind Marcus and Elra's unconventional bond grew unavoidable, news arrived that the Zorathian delegation would soon depart Earth, their diplomatic mission nearing its formal conclusion. This impending farewell cast a shadow over their daily interactions, infusing every shared moment with urgency and every exchanged look with deeper significance. Elra's bioluminescent displays became increasingly erratic, oscillating between hopeful anticipation and anxious uncertainty as she wrestled with the prospect of leaving behind the connection they had forged. Marcus found himself dedicating longer hours, channeling his energy into joint projects to prolong their time together. The communication system he had helped develop had become more than a mere technical feat. It symbolized their bond, transmitting not only language, but the intricate emotions flowing between them. Every modification he made felt like a desperate effort to preserve something intangible yet crucial. With the distance between their worlds soon to be imposed, the station buzzed with preparations for the farewell ceremony. Yet beneath the surface activity lurked a tide of unresolved questions. Both delegations had observed the shifts in their relational dynamics, and murmurs of a potential diplomatic crisis began to circulate. Could a human-Zorathian connection endure the vast gulf between their planets? Would Elra's altered demeanor influence Zorathian politics? How might Earth's government respond to this unprecedented evolution in interspecies relations? As the final days dwindled, Marcus and Elra found themselves stealing moments together in increasingly inventive ways. During technical inspections, they lingered in maintenance corridors, communicating through a blend of tactile engineering dialogues and silent emotional exchanges. The princess's attendants, once vigilant enforcers of protocol, now turned a blind eye, recognizing that something extraordinary was unfolding. However, pressure mounted from all directions. Senior Zorathian diplomats urged Elra to sever the relationship cleanly, warning of potential unrest if her emotional involvement became public knowledge back home. Meanwhile, Earth's officials, though intrigued by the positive effects on negotiations, feared setting a precedent that might complicate future diplomatic endeavors. Both species faced the uncomfortable realization that their meticulously crafted frameworks for interspecies interactions were ill-equipped to manage authentic emotional connections. The situation reached a tipping point when Elra requested an unscheduled audience with Earth's diplomatic leadership. Though routed through formal channels, her request was laden with unmistakable emotional undertones, signaling her intent to confront the unspoken issue, their evolving relationship. Marcus observed as she prepared for this pivotal encounter, her bioluminescent patterns cycling through intricate sequences that mirrored her internal turmoil. The outcome of this meeting would shape not only their personal futures, but could redefine how their species approached interspecies diplomacy. With their departure imminent, both Marcus and Elra understood that their forthcoming decisions would influence not just their individual destinies, but the entire trajectory of human-Zorathian relations. The choices before them bore consequences far beyond personal desires, touching on diplomatic protocols, cultural norms, and the very foundations of interspecies understanding they had begun to forge. Standing on the brink of this unknown, the path ahead remained obscured by uncertainties that neither science nor diplomacy had yet resolved.